This house made history. 4 Pithill Terrace, later 4 Clarence Road, the birthplace of the composer Gustav Holst. He was the most famous person to have lived within these walls and the most renowned to have been born in Cheltenham. Gustav Holst was born in this house on the 21st of September 1874. The house was full of music, from his own violin and trombone as he grew older, and from his father's piano as he practiced for concerts at the Winter Gardens and the Assembly Rooms. The house was also full of silence. Gustav Holst's father Adolf could be cold and strict. Gustav and his younger brother Emil were, like many Victorian children, expected to be seen and not heard. Gustav and Emil spent most of their time with their nursemaid. Their first nursemaid was a young woman called Alice Speechy, who took Gustav out for walks in his perambulator when he was a baby. The children spent hours in the nursery every day. They would have their meals there and take their evening bath in front of the fire. It was also a place for lessons and playing games. 4 Pithill Terrace only had a small yard, and so Gustav and Emil came to Pithill Gardens for their outdoor games. Here, Gustav would have met other children like him. He might have even have visited Edward Shenton's menagerie at Pithill Pump Room, where he would have seen a boa constrictor, a monkey and a raccoon. Then, when Gustav was 7 years old, tragedy struck. His mother Clara died at just 40, and the family moved to another house in Cheltenham. As he grew older, music became even more central to his life. He helped his father at concerts and also at All Saints' Church, where Adolf was choirmaster and organist. It was on the organ at All Saints that Gustav composed his very first pieces, including New Year's Chorus, which won first prize in the Boys' Own Music competition. In 1927, the town honoured him by organising the Holst Festival at Cheltenham Town Hall, a 3-day event that included his most loved work, The Planets, which he conducted. He called the festival the most overwhelming event of my life. But what about those other lives at 4 Pithill Terrace? Those that didn't make history, but were still important. Births and deaths, people passing through. Like the Mrs. Williams in the 1840s, 3 spinster sisters living on independent means, the very first inhabitants of 4 Pithill Terrace. And in the 1870s, Mary Ledyard, Gustav Holst's siren sister-born grandmother, and her daughters, Clara and Susan. Clara met her future husband, Adolf von Holst, when he came to the house to give her piano lessons. Then following the von Holsts, Colonel Manners and his wife Angela and daughter Amy. They settled in the house in the 1890s. Their background, with its roots in the Indian civil service, was typical of many in Pithill at this time. And as the 20th century rolled by, the Doxes made the house their home. Retired coach builder Andrew, his wife Annie, and daughter Evelyn saw out the Second World War in the house. Over 30 people were killed in 2 separate bombing raids in the town, including in nearby St. Paul's. The The Garlicks arrived in the 1950s, living there throughout the following decade. Cheltenham had a vibrant music scene in the 1960s, with bands playing in clubs, pubs and coffee bars most nights of the week. Big names such as the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, with Cheltenham-born Brian Jones on guitar, performed at the Odeon just around the corner. In the 1970s, the Garlicks rented out their rooms to students from the College of St Paul and St Mary and the Gloucestershire College of Art and Design. The Art College was just a short walk away, and it offered a range of courses, including fashion. But in 1974, when the house was sold, the students moved out and the museum moved in. There were others who didn't live in the house, but whose presence could still be felt within its walls, like Gustavus von Holst, the Latvian-born grandfather, the start of a generational thread of Holst musicians in Cheltenham who lived and worked in Montpellier, and in the 1850s set up a shop selling sheet music, pianofortes and Erard harps, and on his own Erard harp performed his compositions. Gustavus's music and life inspired that small boy who crept about 4 Pitfall Terrace, illuminating the dark corridors and gloomy rooms with wonder.
Gustav!
Now it is Gustav's life that inspires, for what would these will say or sing about their early life if they could?